Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Derek Mayshore, and in the 70s, Lawrence was married to my mom, and I had the great good fortune of coming of age with him playing the role of dad in a way that was literally a blessing. So I'd like to say a few things about it. So Lawrence and I met when he was 35 and I was 9 years old. It was a challenge, though, to gauge his age because Larry was an old soul with the experiences and wisdom of an aged elder, but he had an unbridled energy, enthusiasm of somebody who was a youth. And the twinkle in his eye, that irrepressible smile, let you know that there was always a great adventure about to begin. I knew him in several ways. I knew him the hustler, right? Lawrence was a born entrepreneur, as you've heard. And for most of the 20th century, black men did not have access to capital, advice, and other resources commonly and routinely available to white businesses. But Larry was never afraid. He just hustled in the best possible way. Larry ran a delivery service as a kid. In his teens, he formed the Zoot Boppers Dance Act. I'm sorry I missed that. And in the U.S. Army, he even made enough money playing cards to buy his first house. Wow. Later in his career, as you've heard, he would own a bus company. This courage, this fearlessness defined Larry. He was simply determined to make a way out of no way. I know him as the fighter. Larry's fearlessness was on display in the gym. He loved boxing, and in the 50s, he became the wingman of a middleweight title contender, Gil Turner, you see over there. And they were he was his wingman inside and outside the gym. They were photographed around Philadelphia frequently with entertaining ladies in restaurants and clubs, and of course they were in a hot new convertible. Lawrence had passion for a lot of things, but nothing more than nice cars. Yeah. I knew him as a girl dad. Lawrence, maybe this is the most important thing, and nothing to do with me. Lawrence was a doting father to his beloved daughter, Wanda, whom he referred to as my heart. We owned a boat. He owned a boat that we were on for many years, and I didn't put the dots together then, but the boat was called My Heart. Throughout his life, you couldn't see any daylight between him and Wanda. He prized her so, though it probably wasn't always a good idea that they were so similar. Big-hearted, intelligent, articulate, loyal, fun-loving, sensitive, no nonsense, fierce, and deeply loving. Every day of Larry's life, he just adored his daughter. And each day of Wanda's life, she adored him right back. But to me, as much as anything, he was the champ. Larry was a fighter, as we said, and he would compete for his entire life. And in his 50s, he quit smoking. He went back to the gym, started working out again, and he wound up doing that 5 days a week for decades. In racquetball, he was a club champion and a coach. And for years, many were called to play him, and only a few survived the ferocious competition. as Lawrence also became a union representative and led an important bus strike in Philadelphia. He risked his career by supporting the drivers and leading the fight for their rights. That experience would prove invaluable when Lawrence later sought to get the rights to bring his black-owned bus company to Atlantic City's casinos. There were no black bus companies allowed in the Atlantic City casinos at that time. Lawrence negotiated with hotel owners and executives and ultimately won a license for his company, and as a result, NATCO, his bus company, became the first black-owned bus company with rights to drop off and pick up at casinos in Atlantic City. Clearly, a crowning win in the career of the champ. Lawrence, though, has another less well-known legacy: his relationship with me, his second wife's son. We shared an adventure that we treasure, and more importantly, Larry's spirit will live on, passed down in my family, generation after generation. So, the very first time Mom's new boyfriend and I went to play in the park, he established his vision and his values. You see, Juanita was an English teacher and an organist, and that was all well and good, but now it was time for her son to be exposed to the manly arts, the competition. That day, he played so hard with me that I got mad and just wanted to go home and forget this guy. I was done. A couple of days later, I was outside playing football with the other neighborhood kids. I actually noticed that Lawrence had arrived at some point to watch, but I wasn't paying any attention to him. And then it happened. The biggest, most athletic kid got the ball, and I was the only one between him and the goal line. Without thinking, I stood my ground, and the ensuing collision was epic. Both of us lay on the ground, barely conscious. Okay, my head was pounding, and I didn't know what had hit me, but from somewhere, I heard Lawrence's voice. Reassuring, calm, serious. Don't cry. Don't cry. The big white kid was still down. Lawrence said, get up, get up. Show him and the other kids that you aren't afraid of anyone. And just like that, I had my first lesson in courage and resilience. I absolutely loved it, and nothing in my life would ever be the same. In the years ahead, he taught me to go to sleep weeknights at 7 p.m. so that I could awake to study at 3 a.m. when it was quiet so that I would have excellent grades. He taught me to work out at 5 a.m. in the dark, no matter the weather, the discipline. And he taught me to train like a boxer to gain strength, speed, quickness, agility, endurance. Finally, he taught me to love the open water. We spent every summer literally living aboard a beautiful boat, sailing rivers and oceans. Lawrence and Juanita split before my senior year in high school, so Lawrence didn't get to witness it all firsthand, but our dreams came true. I would get that football scholarship and play at Duke. I would go to Columbia Law School and become a corporate lawyer in Washington, D.C. And I would be happiest and completely at home anytime I could get near an ocean. And all the while, whenever I had to be resilient or courageous, it would be his voice in my head. Don't cry, get up. There's an epilogue. So in recent years, Lawrence and I saw each other often, and he loved my wife and kids. He was proud that they too were smart and tough, and that they loved the open water. But perhaps the greatest joy came from knowing that I had become a girl dad. My daughter, Grace, also became an elite athlete. She was a Stanford basketball player and has 4 Final Four championship rings. The voice that's in her head, of course it's Lawrence's. The lessons he taught me, I taught her. So for us, Lawrence's voice will live on forever. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you, brother. Thank you.